Hello all. My name is Jonathan Grma. I'm working at Ethiopian Nutrition Cluster as Information Management Officer. So in this video, I'm trying to show you how you can configure the contact management system and how can you deploy and share to your partners and what steps you are following to going live the system. Before to show you the overall configuration for the contact management system, let's explain a little bit about the Google appscript. If you are familiar with Google appscript and if you have experience on it, you can leave this session and you can go directly to the configuration part. But if you are new to the app script and how it's work, how to deploy, how to create a project and so on, I'll give you a simple highlight that helps you to configure a contact management system easily. So basically, AppScript is a cloud-based development ecosystem, which is owned by Google. It's free. You can create different kinds of apps and launch it to the public for free. If you have a Google email account, you are automatically granted to access this development ecosystem. You can navigate or you can go through the AppScript documentation from the Google. Here you can find it for all the necessary information from the documentation. But to give you a quick review, if you want to go to the AppScript development user interface, you can simply type script google.com. When you go to this URL, you are find this user interface. It's just a straightforward process, so you can create your project here, as you see, new project in here, or you can go here, create an app script. So let's create a project and let's see how can we deploy it and launch it live. Yeah, so when you create a new project, an interface is look like this. You can rename your project here, test project, rename it. Here in the left corner you have tabs that leads you to different sections. If you want to go to the overview of your script, your deployment status, the errors, and how many hits does your project has, and so on, you can get from this overview tab. You can go to the edit tab to put your code here. You can get if you have any trigger function, you can go to the trigger. You can find the executions, how many executions does we have, how many of dropped it, how many of is successful, and the duration and so on. And you can get a project setting here, the project signature is here, the project ID is here, and so on and so on. From the right side there is a button which is very necessary to you. This helps you to deploy your system. So there is three deployment mode. For the first time you have to use the new deployment. After that you can manage your deployment, and the test deployment is just for your testing purpose. the test deployment is not publicly shared unless you are give a consent for that. So test deployment is just for you, for the developer side. Before you launch the system, you have to test by yourself without accessing by others. So I think this is a simple overview. You have to read the documentation if you are interested to working on the app script, but for now we are focusing on the web apps. So you can also have a good documentation from a Google site, so you can read and go through it. But for now, I'm just show you prepare and just create one project with one HTML file and how can you deploy it. So let's do that. Basically, for the web apps, we have a two main function, which is a do get and do post. This do get and do post is fired whenever your web app is launched. So the initial points for your web app will be a do get or a do post. So if you want to create a web app, you have to have include at least one of the functions. Here we have a three subsections. Um, One is the code.js. This is a backside or a server side script. Whenever the server side script is run, needs to be written on this code.js. If you have any library to be included, you have to use this section and plus button. Then you have to put the library ID, then you are including the library. And if you want to put some services to your system, you can put the services from the service section. So for now, let's create one simple HTML and deploy it, and let's see what happens. So uh, let's use this one. Okay, here you can add a new HTML file. Let's name it index. So let's replace it by this. After this, from the server side, I'm calling this HTML and launch it as HTML output file, which belongs to the HTML service library. So when my project is launched, this dogate is called. So the dogate is try to fetch the data from this and return it to the browser. So this is the basic process. So let's save it. Now it's time for deployment. Let's see how can we deploy it. Let's deploy it. New deployment. So here in the deployment screen, you can select one of the deployment steps from the list. Choose for your project. So for our project, we are selecting a web app. So it asks me the description, which means the name of the deployment. So let's say a test deployment. So execute as whom, execute as me. So okay, so who is accessing it? You can select person, or you can put a person's list, anyone with a Google account, or for anyone. So I'm selecting anyone. So let's deploy it. Ta-da! So your first project is deployed online. So you can copy this URL and put it in here. So hello world is launched. So this is how you create and deploy your project. If you have any updates for your project, for instance, from ENCU. Let's save it. So if you have any updates, you have to redeploy your project to get your updates alive. So after your first deployment, you can go through the second and the third deployment is by managing the deployment. So I have a test deployment in here. So there is a pencil icon in here. Let's use that one. So the first version deployment is on February 9, blah blah. If you want to uh, include a new deployment, so put a new version on it. So deployed URL is not changed, so you can use the same URL. Only the version is changed. See, if you want to go back to the first deployment, you can simply select the first version, deploy. If you are using the Git, it's almost the same principle behind. So it gets back to the first version. So this is how you create and deploy your projects.